has now expired, and I'd like to call this House to order to debate the motion that this House believes the government should not provide benefits on the basis of marital law. We'd like to open the case of opening government. Prime Minister, you have 7 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, now around Mr. Speaker, now quite a long time ago from right now, government has set this policy to actively support those people who are married. The government actively supported the idea of marriage by providing some financial benefits or some being prioritizing them in terms of taxation and etc. etc. However, Mr. Speaker, today's context is 2012, and we say this criteria is totally old-fashioned and more likely to be discriminative. Hence, we should abolish right now. So, Mr. Speaker, as a Prime Minister, I would like to speak about basically 3 things. Firstly, why this criteria, marriage, is so old-fashioned and discriminative. And secondly, what are the tangible harm that this criteria or the proper policy is giving. And thirdly, how after the taking proposal, the consequence is likely to be better for everyone. But before that, let me define today's motion. We take this motion in all the developed democratic countries, and we say we will abolish this system, and for the money, we are not paying for those married people. We will spend it for those necessary people, okay, let's say for children's education, or those people who are poor, because we think it is a better way to use the money. Any clarification on your side? So let me start off with my first argument.
On your definition.
Okay.
How do you define the word benefits? Like, what kind of benefits are you talking about?
Well, as I have already told you, we mean those financial advantage those married people are having. Especially we mean taxes exemption those people are having when they get married and so on. And maybe more about the pension system and so on. So let me start off with my first argument. Why that criteria marriage is so old-fashioned and not suitable in today's criteria, and it is being discriminated. So, Mr. Speaker, why was this policy set in the first place? Firstly, it was because the family unit was seen as something very important in terms of the governmental policy in order to order the people, in order to see and to distribute the money and etc. and so on. And secondly, we especially would like to emphasize in those old ages when women were not capable of taking and feeding themselves by themselves. For example, there were no job opportunity for those women, even though they were talented. In this context, when they get married, the government should have actively supported those well, let's say in this context, the husbands, the financially in order to treat or in order to feed women. However, Mr. Speaker, what is the context today? We say that actually those family units is not seen as something that's common. Or for example, in France, 19% of those parents of the children are unmarried. And moreover, we see different types of the connection and so on. For example, partnerships those LGBT people are doing in Britain. And then over we see a lot of single mothers and single fathers who are bringing up their children by themselves. Or we see a lot of single people who are deciding not to get married by their own will. And also, so, Mr. Speaker, we see a diversity of lifestyle in today's context. So the first view to set this criteria is actually out-fashioned. And secondly, moreover, Mr. Speaker, we say those women are capable of bringing up to themselves right now. We see a lot actually the salaries they're getting is by affirmative action and all the other means try to improve their position. It's getting better and better. And right now, the women's income is not as bad as a long time ago, which is and we say that they are already capable of taking care of themselves. However, Mr. Speaker, even in this context, those married gay people are getting sit down, prioritized, and benefited without no reason. We say this is totally arbitrary and should abolish. Why is that? Because we say it is as a flip of the coin, it is being discriminative and ascribing some kind of burden to unmarried people. So in here, giving some kind of profits to the married people, it means we have to pay that kind of money from somewhere else. Who are we ascribing that money right now? Those unmarried people, or the people who would like to marry but who cannot marry. We say this is totally arbitrary and should abolish it right now. Secondly, let's move on to my second argument. I would like to tell you what are the tangible harm of this system, like by providing the financial benefits, or actually this government policy itself is giving. Mr. Speaker, firstly, they say the government is sending the active message that they prefer those married rather than unmarried people. We say this is totally discriminative towards those like variety of people, as I had explained before, those LGBT people, or those people who decide to be single by themselves. It actually is infringing the right for the freedom of the choices, having choices for the lifestyles, how they would like to live, how they would like to pursue their happiness, and we say this should be abolished. But before that, any points? Okay.
Yeah.
Opening.
So how would you respond to the fact that gay people have been campaigning to be allowed to marry for decades, and that they want to get married? They would love to be married. You say that this is taking away like their lifestyle. They want to get married.
Mr. Speaker, as you see that they are seeing being so arbitrary. There are like different kinds of gay people who would like to open up and continue the gay relationship by staying officially married, but there are also the people who would like to continue on the partnership, and we say these kind of the choices, this kind of diverse style should be respected. Hence, by taking the proposal, we can respect both of the people, respecting both their choices, not discriminating any of them. But we say this paradigm is far better. So moving on, what are the second practical harms given by this policy? We say actually we are still sending the message that women are vulnerable, so we should actively give the benefits to the husbands, and we should give some kind of financial benefits because women are incapable of taking up each other. We say this is totally old-fashioned, and actually it is going against this feminist movement, or actually this women's movement who is trying to work as hard as men, who is trying to climb up the ladder and trying to feed themselves. We say this is totally discriminative. Third tangible harm we can see from this policy is that actually we say this is indirectly and excessively discriminating those who are unmarried. As I had already told you, by giving the prioritization to one side, it's actually giving the deprioritization to the other side. So those tax exemption money, the pension money, which one side has been exempted, is actually getting ascribed to those unmarried people. Hence, we say this is totally illegitimate. So, and what will happen after taking the proposal? We say actually the government can stop sending those radical message, and secondly, we say we can treat people more better and more equally. For those reasons, we are very proud to propose.
Thank you very much. First speaker to open the opposition case. First speaker, here.
Speaker, after the plan, we believe that many mothers will start to raise children by themselves, and we believe that this situation is very harmful for children because raised up in unmarried family is ultimately the harm for children, and we want to change the mind of those women to marry and raise their children successfully. So that is our stance. And I'm firstly going to refute to the previous speaker and then talk about my substances. Okay, she said that this is arbitrary allocation of money, and it is burden on unmarried people. However, the government can justify this allocation of money because being married it means that you're highly likely to have children because marriage is the system for family to raise children, which will be explaining my argument. But so if you have children, it's a lot of burden for you, right? You have to send them to school, and you have to pay all the money which will cost on children. And so like the government can say that it can be justifiable that to give them money so that they can raise their children at the same although they have to have extra expense. And the second definition is they said that it's discrimination against those who are not going to marry. However, that is not true. We're not saying that like being not married is a bad thing. We're just saying that if you have a children, if you're going to have a children, or like well, then you should be married. And if not, well, like even if you don't have a children, we can still allow them to have a marriage state. So we're not like saying that being unmarried is a bad thing. So the definition is finished, and sorry, I'm going to talk about my substantives. Firstly, I'm going to talk about why the government have to support and stimulate people to get married. And secondly, I'm going to talk about how in practical means it is harmful for those parents if this support is stopped. So I'm going to talk about these issues one by one. Okay, firstly, the government has a big duty to incentivize people to raise children and raise children in a successful way. We want the parents to send them to school in a proper way. We want them to feed children enough, and we want them to raise children who are good people, not like gangs and stuff. That is because if the children are raised in bad manner, the next generation of the society will be very much in bad manner, right? And that means that ultimately the society's stability will be undermined, and that is the total harm to society as a whole. And this is the thing that the government have to stop no matter what. So the government have to do so. And we are saying that the marriage system is indispensable for society to be stable. And that is my second argument. We believe...
Before that.
Closing.
So you're saying that all of the children of divorced mothers, all of the children of widowed mothers, all of the children of adopted single mothers are all going to be corrupt and terrible and ruin the next generation?
No, not saying that. They're not saying that all of them, but there's a big evidence, the tangible evidence that those families tend to raise children in bad manner, and that is my second argument. Well, it is a fact, there's a logic. Well, like if children are raised in unmarried condition, like the case in as the closing said, or like the case when the mother was pregnant but didn't choose to get married, and in that case, the children are highly likely to fail to go to a school consistently because because like mother has a lot of things to do, and they cannot be with their children for all the time, and so like they cannot encourage them to go there consistently. And maybe the children might get into gangs and do anti-society thing and stuff. And the second reason why children will be raised in bad manner is because if you're married, if you're raised in married family, there are many people who will support you. Like not only your parents, but also the husband's parents, and maybe the government will help you, and so you can raise your children successfully when you're sick or when you cannot have enough time and money to raise your children. So in that bad situation, you can still raise your children in a successful manner. And we're saying that, in the government's paradigm, in the after plan, for many families they'll raise their children in the situation where children are not likely to raise successfully. And as I have said, those parents have no incentive to, especially those pregnant women have little incentive to get married because there's no financial benefit of doing this, and they will feel that when they're pregnant, it's a constraint for them to get married. There's a lot of burden on them when you get married, and they will hesitate to do so in the short-term calculation, and they don't marry, even though it's ultimately beneficial for them. But we're saying that in our paradigm, the status quo, those kind of broken family will not exist, or the number will be extremely low, because we're going to give them money and we're going to reduce tax. So those kind of families, those kind of pregnant women have an incentive to get married and get all those kind of reduction of tax, and so they can create happy and more beneficial family for children. And we're saying that, so for all those reasons, we think that this policy is totally against children's growth, and we believe that the government have a duty to raise children in a successful manner, because it is inevitable for society to be stable. And for all those reasons, we oppose to this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, opening opposition and first speaker. So to continue the opening government's case, second speaker, you have 7 minutes.
What we have to remind here is that the marriage is a private contract of the both male and female, or the both same-sex couples. What the government should not impose the value that the finding the partner is a better lifestyle choices, not to have compared to not to find the partners. The government always have to be neutral to the stance of the private lifestyle choices. Therefore, we beg to propose. First, the refutation. So what the previous speaker has said is that because of the financial benefit, those the numbers of the married couples are promoted. Firstly, we strongly doubt this analysis, because the reason why you get married is not because you can get the financial benefit, but because you love your partners, right? Therefore, we simply believe, even after this proposal, we do not see suddenly the drastic decrease of the number of the married couple. We'll see. Secondly, what they say is single mothers or single fathers children are having bad manner. No, because therefore the government arranged compulsory education in order to give the moral education to all the children, right? Therefore, even though they are nurtured in the single mother or single father family, they can get the moral education, they can have what they call good manner. We do not see any problem in terms of what quality of the children even after taking this proposal. So moving to my first issue. Firstly, I'd like to confirm what marriage is in the current paradigm. Mr. Speaker, the marriage is a legal procedure which binds each couples. Once you get married, even though you're both partner do not love each other, you cannot get divorced. You have to go to the court. You have to submit forms, prescribed forms, in order to end the relation. Therefore, even though you do not love your spouse and you do love affairs, you have to pay huge amount of the money to your partners, even though already those relations are collapsing, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, in the current paradigm, the marriage is a thing which binds each other's partners. Even though both couples do not love each other, they have to stay in the same houses. They have to keep the relation because of the legal duty. Those outdated system of the current paradigm does not attract most of the old people. Therefore, in the status quo in France, because the government do not give any financial benefit to the couples, children, 90% of the children have the parents who are not married. If the parents are free from those kind of financial burden, they choose to be free even though they have the children. That does not make any sense in terms of the problem. Secondly, we say that the marriage is a private contract for individual people. Because even though the government do not get any reward, you have the various numbers of friends in the community. The government do not give money, even though you have the girlfriend or boyfriend, right? And then, as far as those relations, it's a very private contract between the individual people in a society. Public figures, the government, should not interfere the relationship of those kind of the citizens in our society, because they want what they are allowed to do is that they have to do what they want to do. we say those government have to be neutral, and because of the interference towards a certain value of the individuals, now unmarried people, like the LGBT people, or the people like people who are like autism, they prefer to be single, have to like bear much more burden than the married couple, because their taxes are used to give the like tax exemption for the married couple. They are now suffering unnecessarily. The real problem is that those like the people, the characteristic which prefer to be single is the inherent characteristic of those people. Therefore, my partner has said this is a discrimination for the LGBT people, or like people who are autism, or people who fail to find a partner regardless of their effort to find their partners. Like even though you do the best effort, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can anytime find the like best partner in your lifetime. This is not their responsibility, and this is not what they want to do. Therefore, we have to respect everybody's choices, and as far as it is not their responsibility to remain single because of their like sexual preference, because of their like characteristic. If the government give more burden to those people, this is a discrimination towards them because of the inherent characteristic of those people. Yes.
So the issue of called LGBT is coming from the benefits from marital status. We are okay to change the marriage institution system if we need.
If you say so that, I mean that you can give the, like money to the like LGBT couple, you have to give the like couple like the polygamy couple or polygyny couple, because this is also their own thing of what the best like unit in our society. What the prefer to be single, prefer to have like prefer to have just friends, or like boyfriend or girlfriend, not to get married. Like in the case of France, you have to like respect their lifestyle or private contracts in our society. We believe that in any time, as far as you give the you categorize the certain people as like favorable unit or not, you always have to have the discrimination to the certain kinds of people who cannot be recognized by the states. You have to give all people, not to give burden. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, lastly, I'd like to mention about the tax distribution for the people. What the opening opposition has said is that only for the, especially for the married couple, they can get the support from the spouse, from the parent, both parents. So this is a preferable situation. But even after this proposal, the number of the married couple would not decrease, because financial situation or financial benefits does not make strong sense for the each loved couple. The number would not increase. Therefore, after this would not decrease. Therefore, after this proposal, we can give the money who really want to single mother family or single father family, or the people who prefer to remain single. Those people can gain the subsidy from the government. They will not be exploited by the likes of people who do not really want the money, and the tax have to be so. The people who really need the money should be supported by the government, because this is the role of the taxation. For all those reasons, we are very proud to propose.
Now I'd like to call on the Deputy Leader of Opposition. You also have 7 minutes. Hear you.
Right, our position on this side of the house is very simple. We do what's best for children because children are the future, and if we invest in our children, we invest in our future. And I'm going to show you why very clearly, why this is best for children, why this is best for families, and moreover, why this is best for women, in direct clash to her feminism point. Alright, so let's get into some rebuttal, okay? So they talked about private choice, right? Marriage is not just a private institution, okay? Marriage is a social and an economic institution, and always has been, okay? If we look back into history, people often didn't get married because because they loved each other. They got married for social and economic reasons, for stability, for mutual support, in order to create an environment for their children where those children could prosper. Okay? And so we think it's great that people who love each other are in relationships, but we don't think that there's anything wrong with incentivizing something that is a social and economic institution for the benefit of everyone. Like, you may want to argue that the government can't interfere in private lives, but marriage is not just a private institution, right? Marriage is something that creates the fabric of society that is involved in all sorts of like public and national discourse. For like, you know, if a politician cheats on their wife, that's a serious issue, right? That's not just a private issue. That's something that affects their credibility as a politician, as a public servant. Marriage is not just a private institution. But now going on to this issue of choice, right? They brought up the issue of LGBT. Like, LGBT people want to get married. They've been campaigning to get married for decades. Presidential elections in America hinge on the issue of gay marriage. Barack Obama probably won because of the gay vote. So their assertion that gay people don't want to get married because they have this alternative lifestyle is very insulting, right? Gay people want to have children. Gay people want to get married by and large. By and large, the gay movement has been campaigning for marriage for a long time. So we think they're really misrepresenting the gay movement in their speech. Then he brought up this issue of polygamy. Like, we don't think polygamy is good, so we're not going to incentivize it, right? We think polygamy is pretty weird. But we think marriage is great. So there we go. And then he said 90% of French children are born in unmarried families. That is a false statistic they made up because I checked it on my iPhone. It's 64%. Don't make up statistics. Going on to my, and then she brought up a POI. The POI was that all children in unmarried families can't possibly be bad people. Statistics show that children born into broken families go to college less, get arrested more, graduate from high school less, have lower educational attainment, and in general have worse outcomes in their future lives. So we think something that makes lives better for those children is a great thing to incentivize. Okay? Now, I want to go into a point about why this will improve things for women, okay? Why this makes things better for women, okay? Single mothers are not empowered. A single mother who works 3 jobs, raising 2 children with no support network is not empowered. A single mother who, if she misses a week of work, is going to get fired and won't have enough money to feed and clothe her children is not empowered. A single mother who cannot have a career because she is the only one taking care of her children is not empowered. So what this does is, because let's face it, these are the facts. Women who are unmarried tend to be poorer than women who are married. Women who are married tend to have careers far more than women who are married. In fact, women in the top quartile of earners, right, women with careers, are married to a vastly greater extent than women in the bottom quartile, women who make very little money, right? So we think, just based on that, we can show that marriage is beneficial for women's future earnings. And the reason for that is that if you have no support network at home, if you're the sole person responsible for raising your children, it's very difficult for you to have a career, right? You can have jobs, but you cannot have a career, okay? Because so much of your time is going to have to be dedicated to caring for your children, because you have no one else at home to support you. So the women who can actually have careers, the women who can actually excel in the workplace and kind of fulfill their dreams and their potentials, are women who have a support network at home, who have people that they can help them with childcare, people that can step in when they're sick, or step in when they have to work late hours or do overtime. Go ahead.
Okay, so you're talking about how marriage is the thing. It's not the marriage, actually, it's the money. So if we take the benefits from marriage and transfer them to benefits only for people who have children, that'll fix the problem.
And if we take the money from the jets and build schools, everything will be better. Like, the money transfer argument is so general, it's basically meaningless. Okay? When women have a support network at home, they can have careers, right? I just showed that to you. I just demonstrated that to you with tons of argumentation. If you have people at home who can support you, you can work overtime. You can show that you're dedicated to your boss. You can put in the effort that means that you can have the kind of successful career and fulfill your potential. We think that's a very, very strong line of argumentation. And then moreover, right? Moreover, we think that this actually will show that we expect fathers to stay around. Because oftentimes, it's the father who won't enter into the marriage, right? It's the father who abandons the children. It's the father who leaves the mother when she's 7 months pregnant and goes off and never sees his kid again, right? I want you to think that what this does is it sends a very strong message that you are expected to care for your children. You are expected to stay and support the woman who you impregnated, not to leave her alone to raise those children, not to leave her by herself, with no one to help her in that extremely important and difficult task. So we think that this also sends a message that we do actually expect fathers to do their fair share, expect men to do their fair share in childcare, right? Because if we have a norm where fathers aren't really expected to care for their children, as it is in a lot of poorer communities, right? There's not really this expectation that fathers will care for children, because oftentimes those fathers didn't have fathers caring for them. There's this vicious cycle where kind of generations have impressed into the psyche that fathers are not expected to stay around because the fathers didn't stay around and their fathers didn't stay around, right? If we make a norm that says that you are expected to care for your children, you are expected to be there and support the woman who you made pregnant, and we think that fathers will be far more likely to care for their children. Fathers will be far more likely to be involved in the lives of the children. And this is better for everyone, right? It's better for the children because they have a father figure to look up to, and someone to care for them. And it's better for the women because they're liberated from the drudgery of being the sole provider, right? They're limited from being the only person there to care for their children, okay? So what have I shown you today? I've shown you that this issue of whether marriage is private and therefore exempt from government interference isn't really pertinent, okay? It is a social contract. It is an economic contract. I've shown you that they kind of argue that if we incentivize this, it's a harm, right? Giving someone benefits to help people is not a harm. That's a benefit, right? So when they try to argue that this was a harm, that's ridiculous. This is a benefit, okay? Like, if we incentivize something good, it's not a harm. If we incentivize children to go to school, it's not us saying, children who don't go to school are terrible, like, they have freedom of choice not to go to school. Like, we incentivize good things because it's a benefit. So I'm showing you that it's very beneficial, that this will help reduce patriarchy, make it better for women, empower women, and for all those reasons, we are very proud to oppose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will go into the second round of our debate. Member of the government, you have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the opposition side still insisting the value of marriage, and we say that view is totally subjective. And moreover, we say that this unmarried couple should also be treated as the same, the equal status with the other married couple. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we propose this motion. So, Mr. Speaker, they said the opposite side basically saying that the married couple raising children better, and these kind of married couple need monetary assistance. Mr. Speaker, we're happy to give the monetary allowance for the children, not for the married couple. Therefore, all the harm coming from this side opposition will be disappeared. And now, Mr. Speaker, today as the closing government, I will do two things. First, I'm gonna compare why the government have the duty to prioritize the lifestyle choice over the subjective view of value of marriage. And second of all, I'm gonna talk to you why the tax should not be used. No, thank you. Arbitrarily based upon the status in the society. And the opening government talked about good job why the lifestyle choice is important. As a closing government, I'm going to compare why the lifestyle choice should be prioritized. And moreover, no, thank you. The closing opening government did also talked about a good job why the tax should be why using tax and discriminating the people is bad. And more, I'm gonna further explain why, in terms of the social status, why government should not use the tax or the monetary allowance. So let me explain one by one. Before that, a few rebuttals. First, they said that how the marriage give the good effect for the husband and so on and so forth. Mr. Speaker, basically their assumption is that marriage is always good. Mr. Speaker, it is not the case, because there are so many cases that maybe the married couple should be divorced and raise the children. In these kind of cases, the government should not give the assistance to these kind of divorced women, even if that case is better for this couple. Therefore, their assumption cannot stand at the first place. And second of all, they said like these children. No, thank you. The raising the children needs the money, and that's why. And that's why they gave the assistance to this kind of family. As I told in the introduction, this problem can be solved by giving the allowance to monetary allowance directly for having the children. No, thank you. Therefore, being married cannot be the reason to give and discriminate by using the tax. Go.
We're not saying that marriage always brings good, but what we're saying is that marriage is more likely to bring goods to people. And we don't have to rely on the fact that children are brought up properly. Like, if you are married, it reduces societal costs because you're less likely to have
sometimes the marriage is good for and giving a good effect for the children. But we say sometimes it's not good for the children to for example, like domestic violence or so on and so forth. In this kind of situation, still the government imposed the idea to be married by using the tax or the financial power for the couple or for the innocent children. We say that's bad. So let me move on to our substantives. First, why government should prioritize the life choice. Mr. Speaker, from the beginning, the government is allowing the divorce, allowing the marriage. Raising up the children by solely by mother's hand, and that is first of all contradictory stance for the opposition side. And two, why the government should prioritize this? Because as I told you, there are so many cases that the mother, it's better for the mother to raise up children. For example, like the father does not have the capability to raise children, or to give the violence to the children. And in this kind of situation, like lifestyle choice of not being married or the divorce is less than. In this kind of cases, government prioritizes the lifestyle choice to be unmarried. Therefore, the government should prioritize the lifestyle choice over the married status. So, second of all, about why the tax should not be to discriminate the social status. Mr. Speaker, the diverse people need more financial status. In this, the people who really in need of financial status deserve to have the money. But Mr. Speaker, what happened is that a couple who have like more income way, having a more monetary capability. Then moreover, Mr. Speaker, the burden is really the burden is really different. For example, like the people who are not married tend to have the less capability of like earning money. For example, like the Japanese free tier case, where who solely like rely on the part-time job. That cannot have the monetary assistance compared to the people who have two ways to earn income. In this and moreover, Mr. Speaker, and the government is discriminating in terms of the social status. For example, we don't additionally tax the people who engage to certain kind of job. We don't discriminate the peoples over social status. We don't put extra tax over or in terms of the social position of the people. We're not saying that making the difference between tax is okay. We are okay to put more tax on the rich compared to poor. Solely because these rich people have the more room to give the tax to the government. But in this case, Mr. Speaker, especially we're talking about the case who are less likely to have the monetary capability compared to the married couple. In this kind of cases, government gives them additional burden for this kind of unmarried people. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, creating the discrimination by using the the financial pressure through the tax over the social status is unjust. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we're very proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Now we'd like to call on the member of the opposition. And are you ready to hear here?
Madam Speaker, we think the states cannot, we agree the states cannot force the people to marry, but we think that states can encourage the action which is making the benefit for you or making the society. We think that the marriage has some some bad aspect, but we think this doesn't mean that the marriage is absolutely all form which is making benefit for the society. We think the marriage can give the benefit you, not only the society, but we think it's to benefit you. We think the states can encourage this action by using the financial incentives. I want to talk about two things. First, I want to talk about why the states can encourage some value. This is not forced. We think the states can define some value which should be encouraged in the study. And second, I want to talk about what is exactly the benefit of marriage. Before moving on, I want to refute the entire government bench. The opening government, the failure of the opening government was they generally oppose the system of marriage institution, right? Because we are okay. The only harm which is coming from the opening government was, but the court system is very complicated, or the LGBT cannot go to the marriage institution. We think that this is not the problem with the marriage. This is not the problem with the benefit which is coming from the marriage status. This is a problem of marriage institution. If necessary, we are okay to allow the gay people to marry, or if the state or society recognize the right to the polygamy to become the community, we are okay to allowing the polygamy and get the benefit by the marriage institution if necessary, right? Because we think that this is not the problem of the benefit from marriage status. We think that this is out of debate in the first place. The only argument which can vary in this debate was that there is a people who are the single mother, or that's why this is all the fashion in the society. The first is just because there are some other value in the society, this doesn't mean that this form of marriage is valueless, right? Because there are many people who want to go to the marriage institution, and there are many people who want to marry in the society. And secondly, they didn't really explain why this marriage institution system in the benefit are directly harming the gay people or LGBTs. We don't think this is the problem of marriage institution system, so that's why the opening government case has already failed. And the closing government talk about there is a cases which is causing some bad outcome by marriage, like there are cases of the domestic violence. But I think the first thing, this is also the problem of the marriage institution. This is not the benefit of marriage status. And secondly, we think this is less likely to occur. Less likely to occur. We think that if you go to the marriage, you have the high likely to get the benefit, and this is our case. And secondly, the closing government talk about there is a people who need money. Well, if they need money, they're okay to give the money for engaging the part-time job if we are discriminated in the study. And more than that, there is no linkage between this policy, because if the study need to take its burden, we think the state or study can give these people, and this is also the out of debate in this debate. Yes.
Don't you think this system is indirectly discouraging those cooperative couples to divorce, even though they would like to divorce because of the financial reasons?
Well, we think this is not actually occurring in the status quo. If you want to divorce in the status quo, like the case of EU or United States, you can take the divorce even in the status quo. We don't think this is actually occurring right now. Okay, firstly, why the states can define the value as a good thing. We have many examples which is encouraging some value, right? For example, the tax exemption for the religious groups. Even though we recognize the right of people who not have religion, we are already recognizing we have already encouraged the people to have religion. Even if this encourage or financially incentivized to becoming or entering in religious community, we think the states can impose this value because states think that this will make a stable life for you. And secondly, we think that the states have already given the syntax. Even though the syntax are enhancing the healthy lifestyle, even if we have a recognizing right to people to become unhealthy, even people have a right to the smoke. We think that as long as this is benefiting the society, we think the states can impose this value. We think this is totally applied case, right? Because marriage status will make you stable, and this can benefit you. We think that marriage status is the smallest community which smallest forms of community which gives you the benefit. Actually, in the study, that's why states can recognize this right. If you give them financial incentives, you have more chance to recognize this benefit. We think this is a good thing, and this is my second extension. Thank you. So, what is exactly the benefit of becoming get married to marriage status? So, opening up has talked about the benefit for the society, which is about the children. I want to explain more benefit for society, and also for society we want to explain the benefit for you. The first thing, if you get married, you can decrease the cost of the society because the partner can depend on each other. Partner can get the burden of you, and you can reduce the burden for the society each other. For example, even if you get the cold, if you got disease, you have less likely to go to the hospital, and this decrease the cost of the society. And if the husband go to the company and give more salary for you, the society don't necessarily to take the burden of the wives. Society didn't need to support this kind of burden, and society don't need to take this burden. That's why we can exempt your taxes, because you are decreasing the damage or the burden for society. And secondly, if you got married, your lifestyle is also become better. You feel mentally stable, and you always rely on your family, and which is the most closest community you can have. If you say this, for example, if you are being angered by your company's bosses, and you are going to your home, you always have your family. We are not saying that this is all cases. There are some cases of domestic violence, but we want to say is they are more highly likely to be mentally stable. That's why the states can enhance this marriage status, right? If you think about you are not married, or even if you like going to your home, there are no people, and you don't have always your people you can talk, and your old friend is your TV, your stupid TV. You are more likely to be depression. You are more likely to be mentally unstable. Yeah, I think this is a burden not only for you, but also this is a burden for the society, because if you have depressed or unstable, you can't sustain your study, and in worst case, you have a more likely to commit a crime. We think this is not only benefit for the society, but also this can benefit you. We think the states can impose this, but that's why we oppose.
Ms. Speaker, we've heard a lot of analysis today as to why marriage is so much better. Marriage makes your lifestyle better. It makes you more mentally stable. We heard lots of statistics from opening opposition about how much better married families are. But the question government has been asking today is, why is this so much better? As my partner uniquely was trying to tell you, we are not giving benefits actually because of marriage. And the reason why single people suffer so much is because of the benefits of marriage. If it's the children we want to protect, then as my partner told you, let's take these benefits from married people and give them to people with children. Because under the status quo, that number is far greater, such as in America, where we now have a 50% divorce rate. Clearly all marriages are going so well that that's why there's a 50% divorce rate. But if it's the children that we need to stabilize society, give them to people who are helping society by raising future citizens, not to people who are married, especially because it's encouraging them to stay in marriages that are bad to begin with. So I'm going to break down this debate for you into 3 points. First of all, why do people get married? Because we think that's an important issue. Second of all, does marriage deserve a benefit? And third, is there a better way that we can take this proposal, which Closing Government is the group that offers you this idea? So first of all, let's look at why people get married. And actually, we had a consensus on this from the opening half. We heard actually from the second speaker of opening half that there are economic reasons, there are political reasons that people get married, but if you actually listen to Junko's analysis, this is the entire problem, that people are getting married for these reasons. As Junko analyzed, it's because of this subjugation of women that this was happening. So historically, actually, marriage has been a very bad thing for women. So thank you for supporting government's entire case about why marriage is so bad with your lovely explanation of the past. And so, but then, government bench has been telling you what's happened in the status quo. That's changed, right? Women have become empowered. Women can work on their own. So we don't necessarily need this institution of marriage. We don't need to encourage people to join an institution that, especially as we can see under the status quo, is often not turning out very well for them, because that's why, not just in the United States, even in Japan, the divorce rate has been going up. So if marriage isn't going so well for people, why are we constantly encouraging them to get involved in it? I want to hear maybe an answer from that from Akwip, if he can provide one. But I doubt it. No, sit down. So we looked at why people get married, and they're getting married for bad reasons. So second issue, does marriage deserve a benefit? And so the only analysis we've heard from the entire opposition bench is yes, it deserves a benefit because it keeps the families together and it makes you mentally stable. But as my partner repeatedly told you, there are so many cases of marriage where that actually doesn't apply. Yes, you stay married, but if you're married to an alcoholic who comes home and beats you every day, yeah, that's a really great reason to stay married, right? No, sit down. And so, if you're married but you're in a loveless marriage and you don't like your partner, and your children can actually feel this because they can feel the coldness when you enter the room and stare at each other, is that a good reason to stay married? Just because, no, it supposedly makes you more stable? No. The reason people do stay married is for the supposed economic benefit. And so the government, by giving benefits, is actually encouraging people to stay in bad marriages. And we think that's actually problematic because for the mental health of the children, that's not good. And so under the status quo, we have, the combined income for marriage and the benefit on top of that. We think, first of all, that the combined income is enough for married couples. They don't need the benefit. And so we ask you again, who needs the benefit? As opening opposition told you, it's single mothers who have these issues. And first of all, we told you, is it always a woman's fault that she's a single mother? No. As I said in my point of information, we have fatalities of husbands. We do have divorce. It's often not a woman's fault. It's a joint fault, or it's a fault of the man. And so who really needs help? They try to give you all these statistics for why it's so bad for single women. But again, the issue is because they've lost the monetary benefit, the double monetary benefit that they got from marriage. They lost the double income and they lost the governmental benefit. So what my partner told you in his opening speech is, why don't we, instead of giving benefits to married couples, give those benefits to single people with children, or people just with children in general? Marriage is not the criteria that should be getting the money. It is the children aspect, because you need the money to raise the children. But again, too, what about married couples without children? They're getting this benefit, and if children are the important reason, why can you justify that they get a benefit? Okay.
Closing up talk about not only the children, but also we told you that we can decrease the damage for society or burden for society, or more than we can make your life stable. How do you engage this?
Yeah, I'm getting onto that. Thank you. I'm getting onto that. So clearly, we don't see any reason, really, that marriage deserves a benefit. Although they're trying to say it makes things better. But one thing I want to ask the entire opposition bench, do none of you have aunts? Do none of you have uncles or brothers or sisters or grandmothers or grandfathers or stepbrothers or stepsisters? Any of those other relatives? The entire opposition case seems to be resting on the fact that the only people in your family are mom, dad, and children. They keep talking about a support network. No, they keep talking about a support network. Where are the rest of the family members? Do none of your parents have friends? I'm sorry, but unless you can show that these people have magically disappeared once you get married, and if that's the case, they do disappear, we think that's a really good reason not to get married, because why would you want to lose all of these lovely people? We think this support network absolutely does exist. And so again, Akwip, you better prove why it doesn't exist and why your case is so strong. If you're having these mental harm issues, we think it's more than just too late. We think it's more than just the fact that your support network is gone. If your support network has left you, there's more reasons for that, and it's probably your own instability, and yes, you do need help, but you know what? If you were getting government benefits as a single person with children, maybe you could actually get that help. but you're not getting those benefits married people are, and so therefore you're stuck in a situation you can't get out of, right? And so, final point, is there a better thing we could do with this benefit? Well, as I already told you, yes. Marriage is not a reason to give people a benefit. Initially it was, as Opening Gov analyzed, when women didn't have the ability to work. But now that they do, now that you can get this double income and these families can support themselves, it's fine. So now we have to look at the reality of society where we have more and more single people who have this lifestyle choice, which is a completely valid lifestyle choice, and would it necessarily be bad if the government didn't characterize it as so, or if the government treated it fairly and gave it equal benefits. And so we think it's not marriage that deserves the benefit. We need to give it to the people who actually do to make society better. Thank you.
Now, to sum up this round, we'd like to call the opposition win. We also have something to say here.
Yes, closing off, it is true that some married families don't have children. But we don't have to rely on the fact that there's a benefit to children. There's a benefit to marriage, Mr. Speaker, and there was pretty much no engagement from Darla except for the fact that there are aunts and uncles out there so to take care of you. The problem is you're not married. In 50 or 100 years, there wouldn't be no uncles or aunts, right? Also, no one in this debate really analyzed marriage comparatively. Like the government said, keeps on talking about this is discriminatory. It's discriminatory to single mothers. It's discriminatory to LGBT or polygamy, etc., etc. We on the opposition said, well, there's a benefit to marriage. It's about the extent. Any kind of policy taken by government sends some message, Mr. Speaker. And even if it is to a certain extent discriminatory to some minorities, we think if we can prove that there's a substantial benefit to a majority of the people, we think that is good enough. And that was the test we have given you from closing off, talking about some tax, talking about exemption to religious organization, which was simply dismissed by Darla. No, thank you. Now, I'm going to talk about two things. Firstly, I'll talk about government's stance towards choices. In other words, can government add value to particular kind of choice? And does that discriminate other kind of choices? We don't think the answer is yes. We think the answer is no. The second issue is, how do we perceive marriage? The government says marriage is something not good, or government shouldn't encourage. We say marriage deserves benefit. Marriage brings about benefit, and marriage, to a certain extent, should be encouraged by the state. No, thank you. Now let's talk about government's stance towards choices. The Prime Minister came up here and said, basically, the opening Gov's case is states should be neutral towards diverse kind of choices. If states respect the diversity of choices, then states shouldn't encourage any kind of choice. Firstly, we say, obviously, people can choose to live alone. Like, there are a lot of single mothers out there, or there are a lot of mothers who get divorced. As the government bench said, the divorce rates in US is incredible, Mr. Speaker. But secondly, the government is ensuring the minimum basic good towards those people, like including single mothers or people who are divorced. We are more than happy to support those people who are divorced. If they're needing money, subsidize them. And like people, single mothers do have access to healthcare, for example, which are funded by the entire state. And thirdly, yes, it might discriminate certain kinds of people, like single mothers, but the extent was never really discussed by the government. How discriminatory is it that some other families who are married are getting money from the government and you are not? Yes, you might be wanting that money, but as the basic stance of the government, if marriage is a good thing, states should encourage that. No, I'll take you later. Now, secondly, they've talked about minorities who want to get married but cannot. They've talked about LGBT. They've talked about who wants to have a family with polygamy. Now, as the member of the opposition pointed out, that's the problem of the marriage's institution. and not the argument to discredit people who are already married. We are more than happy to include gay people into the institution of marriage, as more and more states in the United States are currently doing. And no, thank you. So this issue of minorities is not a direct argument to support this motion. And the last character we've heard from the closing government is all these talks about people who are needing more and more money, people who are divorced, or people who are working as part-time, according to a member of the opposition. We think this is not an argument to infringe the rights of people who are married, Mr. Speaker. And since all these talks about divorce or part-time workers, it is a societal problem, and therefore it is not an issue where married people should have to bear responsibility. Society as in general should hold responsibility, and therefore we are more than happy to increase tax even, so that society as a whole cover the need for more and more money. I'll take closing.
So you said that it's okay that single mothers are getting the minimum standard, but that's a problem. Married people are getting above and beyond that standard, so that's why we want to give to children, not marriage. Marriage is not the reason for the benefit.
I understand, but what we are saying is that there's a benefit to marriage, not just individually, but societally, in societal level, and that's my second point. How do we perceive marriage? Now, opening government said, Prime Minister started off this debate by talking about how marriage is old-fashioned. And they talked about, progressive movement we are seeing in terms of women, how this confines women to depend on men. Firstly, my first response is there are a lot of people who are still married, Mr. Speaker, who are getting married. So obviously marriage is not an old thing, like talking about 17th century. Even in 2012, a lot of people are married. And secondly, they can still divorce, even if there are tax exemption. So we don't think that this policy is confining women. And also, thirdly, there are a lot of women who get benefits through marriage. Like there are a lot of poor women who are married, but still they are able to get education, or their daughters can get education, and that is good in terms of feminist movement. But what we have told you from closing opposition, Mr. Speaker, is that yes, Darla is right. Not all families have children. We should give benefits directly to families with children but not married. But the problem is, when you are married, there are still benefits. Individuals aren't that strong, Mr. Speaker, and that's why people form communities. People form communities as religious communities, or Latinos forming communities in the US. And the smallest form of community in the society still is families. And if you have husbands, if you have wives, there are someone who will look after you. Someone will notice that something is wrong with your health. Someone will there to cook your food and take care of all of these nutrition. And that means you are less likely to get disease, and thereby you're less likely to go to hospitals. That means it's less likely that you are causing harm to society and others. So because marriage and the existence of partners reduces societal costs, governments should reduce burden to those people who are married, who are partners, who are taking care of these partners. The only response from Darla was there are a lot of other people who will take care of you. But the problem is these connections would be thinner if you are not married. Wait for 20 or 30 years, there wouldn't be brothers or sisters. There wouldn't be aunts and uncles if you are not married, because you will be less likely to have children if you are not married. So because there's a benefit to marriage, not just children, but to marriage, we think that governments should continue to give benefits. We are proud to oppose.
So now over. Thank you very much for your cooperation.